Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Miles Apart.
Hello, boys and girls.
How are you doing? First of all, I'm
I'm
so sorry if my mic is a bit loud. I'm using a different mic than usually. So, if you can hear that, I'm already sorry. But yeah, hope it's fine.
it'll be fine. I'm doing well. How are you doing being back from your trip?
I'm really good. I'm actually on a vacation again. So, for the listeners, I just went with my dad for a 4-day vacation to Florence in Italy. Um, and it was absolutely amazing.
All I heard was Florence.
Oh no! All right, I feel like there's going to be a lot of editing. All right, I'll say it again. For all the listeners, I went with my dad to the beautiful city of Florence in Italy, and it was absolutely amazing. So I want to say maybe like 2 years ago, we kind of reconnected on a personal level, and ever since we've been taking, well, it's only the third trip that we've taken together, but it's a nice mixture of like we're trying to do lots of culture because he's very cultural interested. So we have a mix of like going to museums, looking at old churches or old buildings, but also
Wow.
giving I'm sure you would love that. But also giving me the chance of like strolling around the city and like maybe walking into a store or whatnot.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, meeting you for the first time and getting to know you for the first year, I never would have guessed that you would be going to Florence with your father on a trip. But it's cool to
No.
see.
Yeah,
It's a, it's a beautiful thing, you know?
it really is. It really is. And I've kind of learned that sometimes it's better to take a trip with or like take a vacation with either my mom or my dad. So I just have like more quality time with each of them. And I don't know, it's just easier. How do you take any vacations with your dad only or your mom only?
I didn't really do that until college, and I never really thought of it. Um, but I thoroughly enjoy it. I went to Colorado and went hiking with my mom, and then I also went to Oregon and went hiking with my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and it was cool. It's cool to be with one of them at once, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, I
Because
feel
then
you
you
totally.
then you just have that one. You have that certain connection with that one person and that memory with just that person.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes it's just easier to just how can I say just focus on one of them because there's always a certain topic that you prefer talking about or like with one of your parents, and so you have the chance or like the liberty to do so when you're traveling with only one of them.
Mm. So, is this the first time that you went on a trip like that with your dad just alone, or
No, so like I just said before, this is the third time in the last 3 years. But when I was younger, my dad was working a lot. We had this, I want to say, tradition that we would go on a trip on fall break, which also like lands on my birthday. And we would usually just like fly to cool places around the world, or like we started actually like visiting different regions in Switzerland. So like for a couple of years we did that together, and that was always lots of fun.
mm, that's interesting.
But yeah, back in the day, I was less interested in seeing all of the historic stuff and like the museum stuff, and I
Yeah.
feel like my dad was maybe more interested at the time, so it was a bit difficult to like figure out a good balance for the two of us.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's hard because when you're young, you just care about what you care about, and then your dad is a very particular guy. So I feel like if he's really interested in something, he's like really interested in it and wants to do it, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, and it's also like I've been always interested into like history, and so like when we went to Japan and Egypt together, just for like one of the examples, and of course when you go to Egypt, you want to see like the pyramids and like see like museums of like all the stuff that they found, or, like all the artifacts, or like go to Japan and see like all these like ancient temples. But at the same time, I wasn't interested in actually reading everything in the museums or like listening to everything that my dad either knew about, or he always brings like these tour guide books. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how you say that in English, but he's like, it's kind of funny, but like he's super old school in that area, and it's kind of cute because he brings these like guided, like these books with an actual map. And instead of using an iPhone with Google Maps, he prefers using the map. And sometimes he's like, "So what's the street called here?" And I'm like, "Just use Google Maps." And he's like, "No, no, it's not the same, you know." And I'm like, "Okay, sure."
I kind of like it though. I like the old school sensibility, you know?
It's really nice, but it's just like I don't like if I travel by myself, I always use Google Maps.
Yeah. I think it would be a good test to go to a place that you've never been and maybe only use a map or a tour guide, like you said, that your dad uses or something, you know? Switch it up.
Yeah, and I mean, they're super nice because you do get a lot of like infos that you just don't get on a Google map. And sometimes, like walking through Florence, which is like a very ancient city, and then you see beautiful buildings or like beautiful churches. And sometimes you do wonder who built this, or like who owned this, or like what's the history about behind this building or monument. And sometimes it is nice to learn about it, but like on the second day after visiting like the sixth church, at some point I was like, all right, come on, dad, let's do something else. I can't do it.
That's how I would be. I would be 100% like that. I don't even think I'd get through two churches. I'd be like, I'm done. You guys can enjoy it, but
I mean, I kind like I said, I study history. I've always been interested into history, so it's a bit different for me. But
mhm.
I feel like he's also calmed down, and so we're not like a couple years ago. We would go into museums, and he'd be like, "Let's meet in 2 hours at the exit," and now he's more like, "Let's meet in like an hour, 1 hour and a half," and I'm like fine with that because he knows that I don't want to stay too long. And so sometimes I'm like, all right, let's stay a bit longer, and like I'll walk a bit slower, I'll read a bit more about it. And then I see that he gets super happy about it. And I've like figured out, it sounds so easy, but it's like if I give him these like small things, he's so much more happy, and then he's like more inclined to walk with me to a bar and I don't know, get some drinks after dinner or something like that.
It's amazing. It's not like figuring out a cheat code for somebody, but when once you're around somebody for long enough, you can kind of understand how to please them in a certain way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially if you're going on a trip with your dad, maybe after the first or second one, you kind of get how he rolls, and then the trip can be more fluid and effective.
Yeah, and it's also like he did pay majority of the stuff. Like since I'm earning my own money, so I'm trying to like invite him here and there, but he's always like, "No, no, you're not earning as much as I am, so this is my gift to you." And I'm like, "Okay, but still let me pay something."
hmm
And at the same time I'm like, I don't owe him to like do this, but I know that we're spending these days together, so might as well have the best for each other. Like he has his interests and I have mine, so let's combine them and then both of us are happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a two-way street, and you both have to enjoy it at some point. You gotta
Yeah,
like pay attention to what the other person. It's not just about you. It's like
100%. Yeah.
a joint vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why did you guys choose to go there?
Um, I just gave him a list of like a couple of different cities in Europe because that's the beauty about Europe. You can sit into a train and a couple of hours later you're in a beautiful different city in a different country. And since this was a, I don't know if this is like one of the biggest like holidays in Europe, and so taking a car, especially going to a different city with a car, is just not the move. And then we're thinking of
Mm.
like going to Greece, to Athens, or like Turkey. But then he was like, with all like they just had votes, and then he's like, I don't know, there might be riots, and I'm just not trying to have that. So yeah, I don't know. It was a couple. It was a list. We both had like our preferences, and at the end, I was just like, he seemed that he was very interested in going there, and I was like, I've always wanted to see it. Let's go. And it's like it's insanely beautiful.
So you get there, and what is it like when you first get there? Like, you take the train, you arrive, and did you guys book a hotel or?
Yeah, so we booked a hotel, and then what we like to do is just walk everywhere. And then our like agreement is like he kind of like plans the cultural aspects, and then we combine that from like by walking from one place to another one. And then I'm not a shopping like enthusiast, but like if I see a cool store where I'm like I want to go in, then we'll have the chance. He loves to drink coffees, and that's amazingly good in Italy. So sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, let's have a coffee here," and I'm like, "All right." And it's like for someone like you who's never been to Italy, the amazing part about Italy is that since it's like such an important like country, or like it used to be such an important empire to the growth, or like the build of European society, all of these cities are super interesting from like an architectural but also like historical aspect. And then
Mm.
like Italy being Italy, the food is it's insanely good. It's like you
Mm.
can walk into any place. It could look like dodgy from outside, but the food is amazing. Like you get the best pizza, the best pasta, the best risotto. Like is is great.
How are the locals? How do they treat people from Switzerland? And then also, I'm sure you got to see people from America, so.
Well, I just told you that before on the phone, but like for some reason I was surprised. There's a lot of Americans traveling right now. My dad thinks that might be due to like Corona, that like now people are like feeling safe to travel again, and a lot of Americans. I mean, who doesn't want to see Italy? And so I don't know. For some reason, there were like a lot of Americans, but locals, like I'd say, like in every other place, especially these like Latin-speaking countries, so like France, Italy, Spain, they're all like they're super fun, super laid back, and they're not like Germans or like Swiss, where like everything is like tacted, like this
Hmm.
is this. Like Italians and French and like Spanish people, they're like go with the flow rather.
Hmm.
Some of them speak some English, some of them don't understand a single word. So it's kind of funny.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes they get a bit pissed, and I do understand that. So the old town is the city actually is smaller than Zurich, just to give you an idea.
Okay.
And so the old town is not very big, but it's like a lot of very narrow streets, and these people have to work there. And you have an enormous amount of tourists walking around, and some tourists just don't realize that there's actually people living in these cities, and that they have to go after daily business. And so
Hmm.
sometimes these cars, like they drive pretty fast, and then they start honking their cars, and then they start screaming at tourists, and they're like, what the fuck, go out of my way. It's hilarious. But honestly, I get it. If I would live there and I would have to commute for that city center by bike or by car, Oh, I'd go mad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every single American wants to go to Italy and try all the food. So just from knowing that, the amount of people that are there all the time, especially in the summer, like now it's warming up.
Oh,
So I couldn't fathom living there and just having to deal with
oh
so many
God.
people.
Yeah, but like the last night we found, so I was walking, I was just walking. So at some point we kind of split up. He wanted to go to see another museum, and I wanted to find a store that would sell local foods. So I bought like olive oil, coffee, aceto balsamico, limoncello. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of stuff. And so I was looking for a store who would sell that, and I ended up in a neighborhood that was full with locals. I mean, I didn't know, but I feel like because they only spoke Italian and I didn't see any other tourists. Um, and so we went to eat there in the evening, and then there was like this big, um, like what's it called? Um, place,
Nice.
square. Like a big square, and after eating we went there, and it was like filled with like people sitting outside talking, drinking. And my dad was like, all right, we'll have one drink, and we ended up having like four. He had like grappa, and then I had like Moscow mules, which I prefer
Hmm.
calling Kiev mules because of the war. um, and yeah, so it's you get the touristy stuff, but you also get the like real experience if you walk a bit outside.
Hmm. How does it compare economically or like financially? How much is a cup of coffee compared to Switzerland?
Okay, so the thing is, Switzerland is very expensive. You earn a lot, but you spend a lot.
Yeah.
So this is the beauty about living in Switzerland.
Hmm.
Wherever you go, it's cheaper.
Hmm.
So I can't really tell you how much. I can tell you that it's less expensive than Switzerland. um, I don't know. Like at one time, I had a pizza for lunch, and I paid like 10 euros, which is like
It's probably like $12.
something like that. Yes, and in Switzerland, you don't get a pizza for that money. At
Hmm.
least pay double, and then you will get close to a pizza.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's not always half the price, but it's like just less expensive.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but you're planning a trip on to Europe with your girlfriend in September. Are you trying to go to Italy or?
I was until the flight changes, the prices changed, and now we're going to Portugal, which is fine. Like she wanted to go somewhere that's really warm, and Portugal is pretty cheap.
Oh
So
yeah, and
I think we're
Lisbon
gonna
is
go to,
beautiful.
yeah, Lisbon, and then we'll just come to see you. And I want to just stay somewhere for a little bit and just relax and go slowly and walk around. You know, she's never
Hmm.
even been to Europe, so it's kind of cool to have her just see everything. We don't need to go see every single tourist thing. You know,
No, 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 no.
I'm not really into that anyways, so
Yeah,
um
I think
it'll be a
Lisbon
good
for
mix.
that. I think Lisbon for that is a good shot because you do have a couple of things that are like, I mean, interesting to see, but it's not as like if you go to like a city like Rome, you're kind of forced to go see like the Colosseum or like
Mhm.
the St. Peter's Church. Like you kind of have to because it's just so famous. And like
Mhm.
Lisbon does offer like certain like places or like monuments, but it's not as bad. So I feel like it's a good place to start.
Yeah, and she's her favorite thing is going to a beach, so that's one of the main reasons. So we
Hmm.
can just go to the beach and enjoy it, and then we can come to Switzerland and then enjoy the mountains and the nature as that's what I want. But as with traveling with your girlfriend, you need to care about her too. So
Well, traveling with anyone, as we just found out.
yeah. So I know I've already talked to you about it, but for the people that are listening, um, I want to ask you about your perspective on traveling and how do you value it, and what's your take on it?
Hmm. I think traveling is such a nice thing, and like such a it's just it's nice when you have the chance to do it because it broadens your horizon. You get to see different societies, how they lived through historical buildings. You get to taste the food, and like, yes, we all get to eat sushi and pizza around the world, but there's a difference of eating pizza in Italy compared to like Switzerland or like the US. So that's
Hmm.
like one of those side elements that is amazing. But it's just you get to see new stuff and think about how these people live, and sometimes you get to like take some of that energy with you. Um, and sometimes you get to realize, and you're like, this is a nice place where like to be on a vacation, but I don't want to live there, or like I don't know, that type of stuff. How do you feel? Like, what's your take on traveling?
Um, well, growing up, I honestly did not care about it. I think the typical American, especially a Midwest kid growing up, they're just like, why do I need to get to go anywhere outside of the U.S.? The U.S. is great. I don't. There's no reason to go look outside the U.S. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're growing up, you feel like you're in the place in the world. Like the U.S. is basically the world. That's how you're like raised, basically. Unless you're, it depends on who your parents are and how you were raised, but
Mm-hmm.
basically that's kind of how I viewed things. And then you forced me to um, see Europe, and I had gone to like the Bahamas or something, but that's not the same. So I'd say now I have a better perspective on traveling, and I would say that without traveling, I would not be the same because you get to see how people across the planet live, and that
Mm-hmm.
it opens your eyes and makes you understand that it's it's different everywhere.
Yeah.
Like people see things differently, cultures are totally different, um, and you can kind of pick and choose from different places like what you prioritize.
Mm-hmm. I've so my growing up, I've always done either like city trips for like a longer weekend, or like fly to a country and like stay there for like 2 to 3 or 4 weeks and like try to travel with like in the country and see different cities and different stuff. Or like, I mean, we also biked through countries. That's a different one. um, but then I've never been on a cruise ship. Have you?
Sadly, yeah.
What's the like? What's your take on that?
I absolutely hated it.
Why?
It's basically just if you combined Vegas and an American shopping mall and just threw it on a big ship and put it in the ocean. Just imagine the type of people that are either at Vegas trying to gamble or are at a shopping mall. Like those types of people, that's literally all it is.
So my romantic fantasy of like being on this ship and like looking out the horizon and
No,
getting to new places, it's not like that.
no. Well, I'm sure there's an luxurious cruise to
Yes.
whatever, the Dead Sea or something. I don't know. Like probably. But I would say the majority of cruises complete dog shit. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I for some reason I want to just have the experience because I've never done it in my life, and I
Mm.
just feel like I want to take like I don't know like a week or 5 days and do it maybe like rather in the Caribbean because there's a lot of them in like the Mediterranean Sea in Europe. But I know most of these cities, and I'm not trying to go to the same places again by ship.
Hmm.
Um, I do understand it. Like it's from yes, for you maybe not, but like I understand the idea of like being on this ship and getting to new place on a daily basis. What I don't like, or that's another form of traveling, is just like this group sort of traveling. Like you have this massive group of you, and you have to follow a schedule. And when I'm on a
Hmm.
vacation, man, I'm not trying to be on a schedule.
Hmm. It's just I hate having the most scripted itinerary, you know.
Hmm.
When you're on a cruise, there's only a few things to do. Uh, you go you go and you have the dining hall or whatever you would call it, the
Hmm.
buffet, and you can eat whatever you want. Or they have for dinner, you can go to the fancy dinner.
Hmm.
And people, there were people wearing straight up suit and ties and dresses. And then
Yeah.
there were also people wearing like tank tops and like swimsuits. And it's just funny to see how Americans perceive it. And then when you sit down and you order the meal, it's the same food that was in the dining hall.
Mm.
So you just get like a fancy set of dishes, like a plate, a fancier plate and whatnot, and you sit down, but the food is exactly the same.
But I wouldn't just, I mean, it's not just Americans. There's a lot of like Germans and like Europeans and Asians doing the same type of traveling. And so I watch sometimes documentaries about cruise vacations.
What?
Man, I don't
Why?
know why. It's intriguing to me. It's like I'm not a big ship person, but I feel like there is a chance that I would like it because it's just so different from what I've ever done before. But at the same time, I know I wouldn't like it because you are confined on that ship with like thousands of people, and then you have to follow these schedules or like get into buses to go there. And man, I don't even like to take a. I would never go to like Florence and sign up as a group and have like a tourist guide with like the small like flag and be like, all right, group, this is the next
Yeah,
thing we're gonna look at. And like, hell no.
exactly. Maybe maybe you would like sailing across the sea to go to a different country or something.
Yeah. I've done okay, so I have done one cruise, but it wasn't like a cruise. When I turned was I 11? No, I turned 10. I went with my dad to Egypt and we took a cruise ship on the Nile. And my dad was like, "We're not trying to get like on these ships with like 5 billion people on it." He took a bit
Hmm.
of nicer one, which was smaller, and they would dock at like one at like some at different sites during the day, and you'd had like 8 hours to see that monument. But then in the evening you would eat like on the rooftop of the ship, which is like beautiful and it was nice. So maybe I have a romanticized idea of the entire concept due to that.
Definitely.
So you would never do a cruise ship again?
I think if it was, I don't, it's just, it felt like what everyone was doing, you know? If everyone is doing one thing, if everyone's going to see the Mona Lisa, in my head, I'm like, fuck the Mona Lisa. I don't give a shit.
Okay, but you kind of want to see that one.
No, I don't. Like if I go, isn't it in Paris?
Yes, in the Louvre.
If I go to Paris, I don't even have to go to the Louvre or whatever you call it. I want to go see what it's like to culturally live there and
Yeah, it's
experience it.
true.
But that's my point of view, and I know a lot of people like to go to places and see the churches and whatever, but I like to go to where the locals eat or
Mm-hmm.
go where the locals hang out or hang out with a local.
Yeah.
Walk around. No plans.
It's true. I'm a mixture of both. I wouldn't say that a trip is depending on how many buildings you've seen, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to see some culturally interesting buildings.
For instance, when we went to Budapest and we went into that museum,
Oh yeah.
it was a great museum, and I'm sure every
You
single
didn't
person
like it.
walking in there probably enjoyed it. But I'm just walking around and I'm like, what is this? The
So
one
for
benefit, well, the one benefit was it was so hot. It was so hot outside that when we walked in there, it was nice. I almost fell asleep. I just sat down and literally almost fell asleep.
So for listeners, when we went to Budapest, we went to I can't remember the name, but it was a museum focusing on the crimes on like the Hungarian citizens from the Nazis and from the Soviet Union after the Second World War, and it was not nice. Let's say
Oh wait, no,
the
I
least.
like that one.
Which other museum do you mean?
I'm talking about the one on the castle.
The one in the castle? Oh my God. Oh, yes. Oh, okay,
I no,
okay.
I did like the one about the Nazis and everything. That stuff is interesting to me.
Okay, so shocking stuff is cool, but like stuff with like artifacts, not cool.
Yeah, it's just boring.
Okay. No, I can relate, and like honestly, I love paintings and whatnot. But after the second museum with my dad, I was like, all right, I get it. Lots of Christianity, lots of nude women, lots of nude babies. I can't take it anymore. It's always the same
Mm.
stuff. But I mean, yes, I get it. Um, would you would you ever do a camping vacation?
100%.
Okay.
That's right up my alley. I think I actually am. I'm going to Montana in 2 weeks, and my buddy lives up there, and I think we're gonna go camping. I don't know, but going outside and exploring, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean,
I like to be out in nature. You know, it's just there's enough of civilization. I live in the third or fourth largest city in the U.S. I see a lot of people on a day-to-day basis. It's nice to get away.
yeah, no, I mean, totally agree. I like I like both mixes, but I've had this one experience with a camping trip, my parents, and after that I was like, nah, maybe not.
Did you
I
see
feel
a
like
bear or something?
no, it was so my mom saw Meet the Fuckers, the movie of Robert De Niro. I don't know if you know that movie.
I definitely have seen it. I just don't recall it that much, but I know what
So
you
he's
mean.
driving this mobile home, which is like super luxurious, has like a jacuzzi in it, like a hot tub, like has it all. For some reason, my mom thought all of these RVs are like that. So you see where the tension is starting, huh?
Yeah.
And then people from Switzerland had told her, you can go to Canada and you can park your RV anywhere. You can go like in the middle of nature and like imagine you have these views and you can like, be outside. And so my mom was like, man, how can this not be great? Luxurious RV, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, like in nature with no people surrounding. From here on, it was a big downfall because the RV was like an old piece of crap. And there's no nature parking. It's like concrete parking lots. And so my mom wanted to do this for like 8 weeks at first. And my dad is like, yo, chill down. We're not doing this for 8 weeks. Let's try 3. And she's like, no, it's going to be amazing. We can go hike every day. We're going to be in nature. And my dad's like, do you really want to do this for 8 weeks? So we did 3 weeks. We actually spent 1 week in the camper. And then my mom was like, no, I can't do it anymore. The third day of waking up on these like parking lots, she was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I remember very well, like, she also didn't think about the distances you have to drive in Canada, because you'll spend 8 to 10 hours in that RV. And my mom was straight up bored. She was like, what are we doing? And my dad's like, driving. And she was not having it. And this one time my dad turned around the corner a bit too fast. And so the cabin, the cabinets opened and all the silverware and all the plates just flew around. So it was a good start. And then maybe that was my mistake. At some point I found out that there's a lot of bears in Canada.
Yeah.
And people had told me if you wear a bell so they can hear you, they won't like come to see you because they're more scared and like they're scared of you. So what did I do? I got 2 bells, and during an 8-hour hike, I shook them the entire time for 8 hours straight. And my dad was like, no fucking bears coming anymore. They've all heard you. So, yeah, it was a very nice time, but let's say it that way. Do you know the song from ABBA, Dancing Queen? We remade the song and sang Camping Queen, and it was a song with like for my mom. Yeah, she didn't like it, so it's the first and the last camping trip I've ever done.
That's awesome.
It was great.
The camping that I would want to do is I would not want to rent an RV. I would want to get a tent.
Oof.
Go hiking, put it like the tent like in the backpack, go hiking for like 10 hours and then set up the tent on the side of a mountain, you know?
Man, that's rough. I don't know if I could do that. Maybe I'm too high maintenance.
You need a tent with a jacuzzi in it.
Oh, hell no. I don't know. See, the thing is, like, the idea sounds extremely romantic. Like, let's say go with your girlfriend on a camping trip with a tent. Like, how great. But I feel like reality is just very different.
No, I would not go with my girlfriend, but I understand what you're saying. You think it's going to be great. You go hiking, maybe the first day, it's like, oh, it's so beautiful. But walking 8 hours, you're so tired at the end. And then you have to set up the tent. Then you got to cook the food.
Yes.
And then you wake up, and then you have to deconstruct the tent and pack up. Like,
you still have to find food during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I never want to do this, but I feel like right now, I feel okay. If my girlfriend or maybe you would be like, "Let's go on a camping trip," I think I would do it.
We're gonna do it. When you come to visit, we're gonna take a helicopter. Or no, we're gonna go on a plane, and we're gonna skydive into the wilderness.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And then start camping from there on?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just not going to open my parachute so we can camp for infinity and beyond.
That would be fun
So
though.
I had this idea. So we could introduce this new little like section with your hack of your week, or like something that
Okay.
you figured out, or like, do you have a specific hack? It could be anything. Like, it could be something you've been doing for years, or it could be something that you just found out about.
This is so stupid. But I hated reading for my entire childhood, and honestly, throughout college, I hated reading as well. I
Mm-hmm.
probably read last year zero books.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to start reading, and I started reading books that I actually was interested in reading.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my hack, to actually read topics that you're interested in, because I feel like I always try to read books that were popular, but not topics that I wanted to read. So
Sorry, my mom is
that's
just talking to me. That's why I'm looking at her. My hack of the week would be you can work out wherever you are, because I did that in Florence.
how
And
was that?
well, I only did like a small shoulder and abs workout, but it's kind of important and nice to do so.
Hmm.
Um, it's not really a hack. I feel like it just goes hand in hand with my interests, and especially when we were there, I ate so much pasta and pizza that I was like, I need to do something.
Hmm. I think the word hack is a little outdated now. I feel like when it was introduced, everyone was like, "This is a hack. How to hack your day, how to hack your time, and all this stuff." And now it's just like,
Yeah.
are you really hacking anything?
Not really.
It's just like breaking news. Doing something productive efficiently is a hack. Like, no, it's just doing it, you know?
Yeah, no, I see that.
Maybe the word's like a revelation or something. But I feel like hack, it's just the word that grabs people's attention.
Yeah, and it kind of is also like defines it, because it has to be something that like helps you. So like, yes, your hack is like read books that you find interesting, great, but I don't know if that's a hack. I feel like that's very obvious. Not sure if that should be considered as a hack.
Okay, well your hack was that you can work out anywhere.
Yeah, it's not better. I didn't say it's great. I just said it's an idea. Um, and then the second thing I was thinking about, you you as a vegan now, are there dishes that you miss and you cannot eat nowadays anymore?
Uh, like 2 days ago, I'm at my friend's place and we're just hanging out before we were gonna go out into the bar. And one of the people that live in the building knocked on the door and we opened it up. And this woman just walks in with a plate of barbecue ribs.
Oof. Oof, that's mean.
And and I just look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I would murder somebody to try that right now. Because I didn't eat dinner. And I was
Oh.
so hungry. And it looked so
Oh.
good. But
Yeah, no, I can imagine how that's got to be difficult.
yeah, it's hard to make barbecue. What am I gonna make barbecue? Squash?
Yeah, that was my no, that was my follow-up question. It's like, are there any foods meat-based where there is a plant-based option available, but you know that it sucks compared to the actual meat-based version?
Uh, I would say there's no alternative to steak.
Yeah, I can see that.
But honestly, I don't really like steak.
Okay, but you have to like it. Or like when you eat sushi, don't you miss salmon and tuna sushis?
No, I actually don't. It's surprising. The
Wow.
one the one part of sushi that I miss is unagi, which is eel, like barbecue eel.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's my favorite. I like tuna and salmon for sushi, but I don't really care.
Because I was listening to this other, I'm so sorry, dear listeners. My mom is cleaning up around me, and I don't know what I did wrong in my life. I'm not really lucky nowadays. Like last week, my roommate walks in, starts to throw his stuff into the kitchen. This week's my mom's starting to talk to me and cleaning up around me, which is great. It's exactly what I need when we're recording a podcast. Um, no, but I feel like, let's say I would go vegan. Um, I think I would miss like how. What's the name of you know the meat that you put in the oven for 45 minutes? Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Oh my god, I love meatloaf. I don't eat it a lot, but like that's something I would
So
miss.
I get that you would miss it, but if you don't eat it a lot, you probably have it like 3 times a year. What does it matter?
Okay, or like I mean a good fish or a good salmon. Salmon is great.
No, I mean, trust me, it's not like I don't like these things. I am the first to say that I love pretty much every single meat on the planet. I would eat it. But now that I know what is done to the animals, how it affects our planet, and how I'm better off just not eating it for my ability to run and stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
Um, then it's just like, even if I really want it right then and there, if it's right in front of me, I still have the power, strength, because I have the knowledge. I understand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't want to make everyone else feel bad about their choices, because it's my choice.
How do you mean you don't want?
Because I think the portrayal in society for veganism is this person with purple hair freaking out. Like, oh my God, you're eating this, you know?
Yeah, but
You're a
I think
terrible
that was.
person.
But don't you think that was like 5 years ago? And nowadays there's like a lot of people who are vegetarian or vegan. So like, yes, of course there's still like the stigma around it, but I feel like it's changed, it's evolved.
Oh, 100%. It's evolved so much to where you can go to 40% of restaurants and they have a vegan burger or a
Mm-hmm.
vegan this or that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's way easier to go out with friends and family than it probably was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they probably had nothing.
Man, imagine you were vegan 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're
You
probably
would have.
eating grass.
I mean, I don't even know what was available back then. So probably more than grass.
It's just amazing that almost like every single meal in the standard diet has either meat, fish, or dairy products.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's kind of shocking to me how you can go to a restaurant and just see how literally everything has it.
Yeah. And like it gets crazier when you look at the packaging of like all the foods that we buy in grocery stores and read the lists is
Hmm.
not what you like the stuff you find in there is insane.
Yeah, it's just we've gone so far from eating stuff that comes from the ground,
Mm-hmm.
you know? You're not born to eat triglyceride X597, you know?
Well, but that's the case nowadays. People are used to it. And I mean, it's difficult to like not eat that because it's in anything. Like it's in
Yeah, I mean,
everything.
even if you go to the grocery store and you want to get some grapes, most of them are sprayed with so many pesticides, and then
Yeah.
like get that into your system, and it affects you in a poor way.
I mean, like I said last week, I'm watching this show about from this German guy who's like cooking food that comes out of like grocery store packaging, and it's just so far away from the reality from what we're being sold. Like they tell you
Hmm.
like, oh, this is a pesto, and like you look into it and it's not. It's actually not.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, it's different in Europe, but if you go into a grocery store, I know it's still bad, but I'm saying
Hmm.
if you go into the grocery store, maybe in Europe, I'm not exactly sure, but all the middle rows, it's like over 70% of that is made out of corn, like different variants of corn,
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
True. Yeah, I mean, this is a whole different topic. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
we
don't know
should
how
keep
we,
that. No.
I don't know how we got into that.
Well, I asked you what kind of foods you would miss as a vegan nowadays, but look how we where we ended up.
Yeah, I don't know. I miss it, but I don't at the same time.
Yeah. I do have to wrap things up because apparently my mom has invited people to come over. So, unless I want people to walk in and start talking to me, I have to sadly bring this episode to a shorter end. Um, but next time we'll hit our 1 hour at least again.
It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, like always. Dear listeners, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week with a new episode, perhaps talking about foods.
Peace out.
Peace.